What? So right now, I'll give you 5 minutes. Write down the answer, and they don't even have to be full sentences. I just want you to write your own thoughts. So when it comes to discussion, you have thoughts written down. What do deaf people have to take into consideration when considering housing, having children, their career choice, their college choice, the town they live in, the school they go to, and communication in general? When I say communication, I'll leave that up to you for your interpretation. Sorry, just making sure I was actually. Can everybody read that? Okay. So jot it down on a piece of paper or in your notes. I don't really care.
I spelled chicken. sometimes like to be upset. It's hard.
Ugh.
I'm trying to figure out how to say this.
Mm. 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 Let's see. Oops, excuse me. Um, Mm. Mm. All right, so I'm going to show you this just because when we're talking about colleges, there's a lot more to consider about a deaf college than I think you guys realize. And this video is kind of cool because then you start thinking about well, there is some signing, but there's closed captions.
I genuinely almost asked, is it in deaf instead of is it in sign language?
Do you remember? Was that like a YouTube clip? Will you send me the link on Instagram? I don't have Facebook, but will you send me the link to it? Okay. Okay. All right. Well, here we go. Here's this. I don't know.
Great.
Local train. Stand clear of the closing doors, please.
Yo, that
We
audio
live
quality.
in a world built for people who hear.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Live from NPR.
But what would our man-made world look like and feel like if it were designed for those who don't hear? Gallaudet University in Washington, D.C. is a school for the deaf and hard of hearing, and they are redesigning entire buildings based on the sensory experience of those who don't hear.
We've only just begun, though, to challenge ourselves to examine how we could design entire buildings, entire campuses, or even cities to be aligned with deaf space. Deaf people as a culture have been marginalized largely. We've been, as a marginalized community, developing our own culture, and that defines what kind of place we call home, how we claim and occupy space. And so we've begun to ask ourselves these questions, and because of that, gotten a lot more creative, begun to think bigger about how we can find different ways to align our ways of being to our environment. The classrooms are oriented in a semicircle or a U shape, so that classmates can continually visually connect with other classmates. So if you want to be involved in a discussion, everybody has a front row seat to seeing. In a wider hallway, two people can walk in parallel signing with each other, but we do have specific distance parameters wherein we can observe the whole body in its signing. Hearing people, though, could disregard that kind of a distance requirement. They can be just next to each other, speaking to each other without that need for the visual field. Stairs also require a great deal more visual attention to your footing. And so ramps reduce that. So if you're communicating with somebody while you're navigating a ramp, you can do so much more easily. Within deaf space, we have always relied on a heavily visible environment because we're not getting information auditorily. So if you're sitting at the top of the terrace, you can see all the way to the bottom of the terrace. It's one distinct place that can be unified or have three distinct areas. Color and lighting are highly aligned to communication access. Blues and greens will usually contrast with most skin tones enough to reduce eye strain. You may want to have more diffused lighting. A lot of the lighting here is directional so that it can be aligned. But there are mirrors present to allow somebody to know and have a sense of what's happening behind them. Through the use of that reflection, they can know if somebody is nearing them behind them, or if somebody taps them, they look up and that reflective space lets them know who's there. Transparency of, say, doorways, so that when a person is in an office, they can either have a transparent doorway or passageway or one that's opaque, so that I can see lighting and shadow and movement, know that somebody's at the door, but not clearly see who's there. Very often, people refer to hearing loss as an example, which negatively frames the whole approach from the outset. But let's imagine the deaf baby who has never heard, and yet is still described as experiencing hearing loss. And instead, we propose a different framing, that of deaf gain. What is it that we gain by the experience of being or becoming deaf? Deaf space, I believe, is born of the idea that we have something to offer the world, that being deaf confers some very interesting perspectives on life.
Okay, so I just thought that was really interesting because if you guys think about your space, you like things that you don't think about on a day-to-day basis of like somebody coming up behind you, like the reflection of being able to not maybe necessarily a clear mirror, but that reflective surface so that you can see that somebody's coming in where you guys can hear footsteps. Like things that you don't think about. So I thought that was kind of cool. So so in Kalamazoo, they're really making a push for like all access everything. So their crosswalks are visual and for blind people, and like just they're slowly implementing like things like this to make it more accessible. Pretty cool. I really want to go visit Gallaudet.
School field trip.
I know, that would be amazing.
Yo, I'm just saying we should do it. I honestly don't even know where that is. Washington.
What? Crosswalk, like in Kalamazoo, the crosswalks go, they speak, don't walk, don't walk, don't walk. I said visual and auditory, didn't I?
Yes, you did. Yes, you tried to.
Oh, sorry. Auditory for blind people, visual for deaf people.
No, auditory for deaf people, visual for blind people. Get wrecked.
Yay, thank you. I want to watch this. All right, you guys, have an amazing weekend. I'll see you on Monday. Thank you.
I got my hoodie, but I didn't see them signing at me, and I just, after
Wait,
school
what?
finally told me, like, hey, she's trying to ask me if you got your hoodie. I was like,
Wait,
I'm so sorry.
what happened?
When we went to DC in 8th grade, a deaf person was trying to ask where I got my hoodie, and I didn't see her signing at me, like, at all. Or I might have, like, looked at her and looked away, but not, like, physically paying attention, and I just felt so bad.
Yeah.
I was like, I'm so sorry. She goes, it's okay. It happens all the time. And I was like, that makes me feel even worse.
This is Daniel Durant.
Honestly, I think one of my favorite things at Mega is when we have deaf people come in, and if they're usually my table, because as soon as someone comes in that is deaf, they're just like, "Okay, Katie, you got a table."
Yeah.
And my favorite is if they're trying to ask me something, and I always make sure to look at them more than I would another table, because I know that there's no way for them to be like, "Oh, hey, miss, could you please?"
Yeah.
And especially like with the deaf table, they don't try and get other waitresses because it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Like, it's not worth the struggle to try and have them figure out what you're asking.
Yeah.
Whereas just wait another 30 seconds and I'll be there.
Yeah.
So, like, I've had conversations with my tables just across the restaurant because I'm like, oh, hey, you need something? Yeah. They'll like, hold up a drink, or they'll like, show me, like, I need a fork, or, like, I need this. And I'm like, yeah, of course, no problem.
Yeah.
And it's great, mostly because then any customer in between that line of fire for the communication, everyone's just like, what's going on? Why are these two people flailing at each other?
Yeah.
Don't worry about it, Dad.
All right, I just have to get this off my chest. I have to say the way I'm feeling is fed up. Enough is enough. As you can see, I'm dressed up tonight.
Daniel Durant.
And the reason is because there is a young girl who's deaf, who's dreamed of becoming an actress, and she's been very enthusiastic about getting involved in different opportunities, and she finally had a chance to get involved in a production that filmed over the summer. And filming is all done, and she's been waiting and excited to have this big day so that she can show off her work. And here we are tonight for the red carpet premiere to show her work on the big screen, and it's a big formal event with cushy seats for all of us to sit in and watch. And here we are, there's all these, she wants to show that deaf people can do it. And of course, all these deaf people have come, and we're all excited in the auditorium, and we're looking at the big screen, and guess what?
Voicing for him.
There are no captions. This girl, this young girl, has worked so hard and on her dream, and that she was so excited for this moment, and how everything's messed up. And what we found out was that a guy who was responsible for the captions tested them this morning to see if they worked. And they didn't work. This morning. And he thought, well, I'll just leave it. And then, of course, all of us deaf people show up, and here we are, and they don't work. I tell you, honestly, this happens every single day to us deaf people.
Say every single
and I'm
day.
tired of it. I'm
Did
fed
you see
up.
his mouth?
You know, remember recently Niall went to Black Panther, to that movie, and there were no captions, and he walked out, and he was right to do it.
Gosh darn
Niall,
day.
I urge all of us to have captions on all screens. It's got to happen. I support that. We need full access for all of us, not just for deaf people, but for everyone. I'll never forget when I was a kid. I was really into Jurassic Park. And I went and bought one of those t-shirts with the logo of the dinosaur on it because I was going to go see the movie. And I was really excited, and I showed up with that t-shirt on, and I went and I bought the ticket, and I put up that little caption machine. I sat to watch the movie, and all these hearing people were enjoying the movie, and the caption thing did not work. And everybody, I look back, everybody else is enjoying the movie. And I'm sitting there with my logo of a dinosaur on it. I walked out of that movie and I went to the front desk and I complained, and I talked with the people at the desk, and they said, oh, we're so sorry. We're so sorry. It won't happen again. We'll give you your money back, and maybe we'll give you an extra free ticket so you can come visit us again. This happens to us all the time. It happens to all deaf people every day, day in and day out, and I'm sick of this. Listen, maybe you hearing people or people out there are thinking, oh, but those captions, they bother me. They bother my eyes on their screen. Listen, I'm sorry to say this, but I'm calling bullshit on that.
Sorry. Don't
I've
say that
got a
word.
challenge for you people. Try turning those captions on everything, on every screen you have. For Netflix, for TV, for cable, whatever it is, turn it all on. And then you will see how captions benefit you too. Why? Because, I don't know, sometimes you don't hear the dialogue for some reason. Or you're really excited about something that's happening, but the captions come in before the sound does. Listen, I'm telling you, there are many things that captions bring a benefit for everyone. And we want captions on all screens now. And I will fight for this. We will fight for it.
His voice is awesome.
It's Dan McDougal.
It's vital for all of us to have access, equal access for everyone. Captions, now.
He's the most flamboyant teacher at a Catholic university I've ever met.
So this is really random, and you're probably gonna just look at me and be like,
Bye, ladies.
to know this because I don't